Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nasdaq Futures Weekly Outlook 2026, Episode 5. This is the first full week of 2026, and it is the first week of January, which means that it's NFP week. So for NFP, we follow it, or at least I follow a specific protocol. For this week, Monday, we have a high impact news at 10 a.m. New York local time. I will be waiting for at least the 942 macro to present itself to take any trades. If I'm going to take any trades, if everything aligns itself, I will explain myself more on what I mean on that when we get into the charts. On Tuesday, we have a non-high impact news day, which means that we wait for at least the 9:30 New York local time opening price. And then for the 942 macro to take any trades as well on this day as well. On Wednesday, we have 3 high impact news folders. We have the job jolts, and we have a few other nice news events that I like to trade on these days. On Wednesday, I will have the same protocol, waiting for at least the 942 macro to take any trades. If something presents itself prior to that, I will be very cautious of taking it, only if the higher time frame has gotten back into sync. On Thursday, we have unemployment claims, but it is the day before NFP, which means that there can be a lot of high resistance on this specific day. If you're a new trader and you're not used to taking trades on the day before NFP, I would just avoid this day. For me, myself, I will be avoiding that day completely, and I will not be looking at the charts. On Friday, we have NFP at 8:30 New York local time, and then we have 10 a.m. news as well. All of these are high impact news days. I expect a lot of volatility on this specific day on the market. I will 100% be trading this day and waiting for, again, the 942 macro to take any trades. Now let's get into the charts. So here we're looking at the Nasdaq Futures March contract for 2026 on the daily time frame. Currently, we have slightly closed underneath this busy, which for the Nasdaq has invalidated the buy program, but I am not 100% positive that we are going to take or seek further discount, which can be this previous weekly low or this monthly low, specifically because ES has not invalidated its buy program. So in my opinion, until ES invalidates the S&T between these candles here, which I will show you here, if you pay attention to the lows on this specific days with the Nasdaq and ES, the Nasdaq created the low on the 17th of December, while the ES created the low on the 18th of December. That alone is a fractal SMT that is still holding. Now, if you remember from the previous weekly outlook series, I had mentioned this specific candle, which is why I have this emoji here to pay attention to the specific candle. This leg was the leg, in my opinion, that created the CSD at this high. Okay, that means that this specific candle is the order block of this move. So until this candle here technically is invalidated, we can still continue to see higher prices. Now, what discounted arrays would I be aiming for? Well, we have this volume imbalance here that still has not been traded into and that can possibly be tapped into before continuing higher. Now, what would confirm a sell program for me? Let's go ahead and look at ES for now. Now here we're looking at the E-mini S&P 500 March 2026 contract on the daily time frame. And here is the fractal SMT, as you can see. That is the low on ES versus NQ. We also have weekly SMT here with YM on both NQ and NASDAQ. Excuse me, on the NASDAQ and S&P 500 contract. And I want you guys to pay attention to this specific day, being the 18th of December. 12 is the month of December. 18th is the day of December. 2025 is the year. I would encourage you guys to do the math on that specific day and see that this is a power of 3 day. The fact that we created the low on this specific day, to me, is not random at all. Now, until ES loses this down close candle, I expect any move lower to be price distortion. So from current price, from where we open on the weekly time frame, that is a 2% drop. So until ES takes this low and invalidates this whole SMT that we have here, I would consider the current market on the higher time frame to be out of sync. Now let's go back to the Nasdaq to look at further price. All right, now that we're back at the Nasdaq chart, we can see again that the Nasdaq has closed below this BISI, while ES is still trading inside the same BISI. Now, it all depends on how we trade this week moving forward, if I will be taking any trades. To further explain myself, I would be dropping down into the 1 hour time frame. Now, when we drop into the 1 hour time frame, we can see price a little more detailed. What I will be paying attention to this week are a few things. One, this is the daily BISI here. And this same range that I had called last week, which is the new week opening gap of last week, are two levels I'll be paying attention to, which essentially we can remove these to make it a bit cleaner. Let's remove this one. And I want to point your attention to this 1 hour CIBI on the Nasdaq contract. Currently, we have traded back into this CIBI, and we have SMT at these lows. Currently, for me, in my opinion, Nasdaq is in a sell program, while ES is in a buy program. So until one of them catches up to one another, in my opinion, everything that we will be seeing, it will be high resistance liquidity runs until either Nasdaq closes above this range, right? So from here, closes above this range, uses it as support to then continue higher, right? Or I would do nothing and wait for price to seek further discount. Now, if you are a counter trend trader and you're good at taking negative models against the trend, and then looking for some sort of manipulation at this high inside of this area to seek further discount is also a possibility. Well, where can we go? Now, I want you guys to pay attention to this specific BISI here that has not been traded into, that's resting slightly below our price here. And we have all this accumulation of lows here, right? All of these lows and this lows here can be viewed as a form of sell-side liquidity. So it's either I wait until price closes above this daily BISI to then continue higher, or I can take a negative model or a counter trend trade to seek further discount, which can be swiping this time-based liquidity, which is our previous weekly low, and then trading into this 1 hour BISI here. If price wants to continue lower and come into here, then I would be looking for some sort of signs of a low with SMT to form to then continue higher throughout the week. If Monday and Tuesday wants to trade lower to form a low on Wednesday or Thursday to have NFP, then create the CSD, that is also a scenario for this specific week. So with the higher time frame being currently out of sync, I will be very, very cautious, and I also advise everyone else who is not a veteran or very comfortable with taking counter trade trades or comfortable with just taking losses, because it is possible to have 1, 2, maybe 3 sweeps of liquidity before actually having a CSD lower. So with that being said, let's go back into the daily time frame. Remember, this is the volume imbalance, and then this is the 1 hour BISI that's underneath price. And if price does confirm the buy program once again, we have previous weekly high and previous monthly high. And again, it's CIBI here that was formed on Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. The CIBI on the daily time frame for Nasdaq, it will be the target for this specific month. And until we either invalidate the buy program, which will be removing this SMT, which is taking the previous monthly low. Again, I expect all of this to be price distortion and an open low for 2026 to be a bullish first quarter of the year. Now, if this specific SMT that we have here at the highs wants to hold and we continue lower and take this previous monthly low, then a whole new ball game will be on for the remaining of the month. So it's either we wait for both time frames on ES and Nasdaq to be back in sync to close above these specific levels here that I mentioned, or wait for it to form a low and further discount to wait for the CSD to then take, or we can take counter trend trades to catch perhaps a retracement lower into these two PD arrays that I have mentioned here. Or this is the start of a somewhat bearish market. And if Nasdaq and ES both take these lows, then I would expect further price to be here. But I am favoring a bullish bias going into this week. NFP is on Friday. That is a perfect excuse for them to inject volatility into the market and create a CSD higher, trapping everyone that thinks we're in a bearish market after these down days. Having the conviction to still stay bullish even after seeing consecutive down days like this, in my opinion, is a skill within itself. So here on the 1 hour, again, just to point these out, we're paying attention to this SIBI here and the consequent encouragement of that SIBI and the consequent encouragement of the daily BISI, which is here and around here. So around this area here. We can look in the New York session on Monday or Tuesday to maybe see retracement lower. Or there is no retracement lower and it just continues to push higher. And then at that point, you would wait for the close above to be confirmed to then continue going higher. With that being said, good luck and good trading this week.